Hey y'all! So today I wanted to come to you with an inspired message, and we're going to be connecting dots and piecing together some concepts to with the intention of giving us all more clarity as we just navigate our lives, because obviously we've been made aware of toxicity and how the darkness operates in this world, unfortunately through our firsthand experiences, right? So those particular experiences that we went through, we would probably likely catch someone attempting those same tactics on us today if it was almost like a mirror image, like identical, but some kind of new approach may hit us differently and may actually go under our radar. So what we're going to do is we're going to go forward with that intention, just to keep our state of awareness heightened, not paranoid and not expecting the negative, but just be at a calm place of alertness, calm alertness, I might say, right? So just keeping these particular things we're going to discuss today in the forefront of our mind. So I've always had interest in this topic, but I didn't know what it was called, and so I've recently learned about etymology. So etymology, if you're unfamiliar, like I was for so long, is the study of words, and specifically the roots, like how they were built and formed, as well as, and a lot of times it's like Latin. You can reference old Latin bits and pieces of a word and put it together, and it just kind of gives you a whole nother level of meaning for a word. It opens up a lot more in your mind for like another level of understanding. It does for me. And then also etymology can mean the history of words and how they change. And it's always been interesting to me to pick up old books. I love old books, and especially if they're really old. If you're trying to read what they're trying to describe, it's almost like, even if it's in your native language, it can seem like you're reading a foreign language, because even phrases and terms morph and change over time. So I think it's really interesting to take a look at those types of things. And again, it just gives us another layer of understanding as we're navigating life. So no, I haven't gotten tattoos. Well, not permanent. These are temporaries from my daughter. if you're noticing that. So yeah, so for Easter. So all right, so we're going to take a look at some words, just some general meanings. We're going to lightly touch on like prefixes and some deeper meanings with regard to etymology and all that. And the reason I wanted to have a presentation, or to create and present this for you, is because just something as simple as having a few terms in the forefront of your mind, just readily available for you as you're operating in this world. Okay, it's going to keep our mental alertness, our mental awareness at a certain level, so that hopefully we will be able to still catch any kind of toxicity that attempts to enter our peaceful domain, our peaceful area, that otherwise we wouldn't have caught. So we're just trying different tactics and different approaches to be able to make sure we have our suit of armor fully constructed. Does that make sense? So that's the motivation here. And when I say we want to catch it as it happens, catch these attempts as they happen, it's not necessarily that we're going to be able to identify their behaviors immediately, because a person's approach can be so slick when they're trying to manipulate or deceive us that it's going to often fly under the radar, but some level of our consciousness, like our subconscious, may catch it, or will likely catch it, but it's going to stay like down low. for some time, until we have gained this other knowledge to be able to make sense of it. And once we're able to do that, that's why the Bible talks a lot about knowledge and how important wisdom is and understanding, because once we have that, then we have the mental tools to bring that experience back up and process it and understand it. So it's going to be logged, and so that's not what I'm talking about when I'm saying catch it as it happens, because people are so slick. What I mean is catch it, meaning catch how you feel, catch your response, because that's likely going to be the first thing you notice when some type of bad attempt is made at manipulating or deceiving you. The first thing you're going to notice is likely this response inside of you, with your body, with your breathing, with your blood pressure, all of those kind of like instantaneous responses that come up from our intuition, our gut. And so later is when we're going to be able to piece it together and say, I see what that person did. You know what I mean? And you can call it out in your mind. And then you just gained another piece of armor. Because then going forward, you're always going to recognize it. So that's our goal today. So let's go ahead and dive into these terms. So these were terms that just came to me as I was trying to brainstorm what to include in this presentation. And it just really, the more I thought about these terms, the more I realized I wanted the entire presentation to be focused on these terms. So the first term is demoralizing. And the definition is to weaken the morale of, or to discourage. Demoralizing. So when you're out and about, if you're thinking these terms like that felt demoralizing, or that, that just affected me, that was very discouraging, these terms are going to be like a checklist as you experience different interactions with people. Okay, so demoralizing, to weaken the morale of. So morale means the mental and emotional condition. And I know that we all kind of know what these terms mean, but I think to give ourselves a refresher on these terms, breaking it down specifically with this level of interest that we have now, because we understand that we're doing this research with intention to protect ourselves, I think that's going to motivate us to really hold on to these terms as part of our armor. So demoralizing is to weaken the morale of, and morale is the mental and emotional condition as of enthusiasm, confidence, or loyalty. Okay, so I know a lot of times you hear these terms in a workplace, but it can apply anywhere in our life with any dynamic, any environment or relationship. And the other definition of demoralizing is to upset or destroy the normal functioning of. So if somebody has affected you, if even a simple interaction with someone has affected you in such a way that you're so rattled that the rest of the afternoon you're just ruminating on how much this person bothered you. Maybe you were able to catch yourself from reacting, which is good, but if it's just on your mind and just bothering the heck out of you, then that would fall under, in my opinion, this category of you felt demoralized. Somehow you may not can put your finger on it, what they did that was demoralizing, but they made you feel that way. So that's what we're going to start with focusing on, okay? How a person made us feel. And the thing is, when they rattle you to that degree, it does disrupt your normal functioning. You may not feel anymore like going and doing this fun activity you had planned, this great experience. You may just sulk. You may just find yourself, not even intentionally, but killing time, just ruminating or whatnot. So these people can absolutely upset or destroy the normal functioning of our daily life, So just some things to think about. The other term is degrading, which is characterized by degeneration of structure or function, which is, again, very closely aligned with what we just talked about, demoralizing, right? So degrading, characterized by degeneration of structure or function. And degeneration means having declined from a former state. So you're just going along in your life, everything's fine, everything's good, you got it going on, you're rocking along, you're just, everything's good, right? Everything's not great. I mean, that would just not even be realistic. But you follow me, you see what I'm saying? Like, pre-narcissist, before this bad experience with this person, right? If you want to call it that. After getting entangled with someone who is very toxic, you are left. You feel like you are left in a state of your former self. So again, degeneration is having declined from a former state, because they break you down. How often do you hear people talk about their entanglements with a narcissistic person or a toxic person, how it just feels like they break you down, and they break you down on purpose as a method to control you, and to manipulate you, and to deceive you, and to toy with you, and to get their kicks off of doing this to you. So yes, you do unfortunately decline. Sometimes it's not just psychologically, mentally, and sometimes it's not to say that's not huge. That is huge, but sometimes it's not even that alone. Sometimes it's your an emotional wreck too, that's declined. The stability of your emotions has declined, and then you blame yourself for reacting, when in reality that was all part of their tactic. And then also bodily, physically, we can decline too, and find ourselves in poor health when we've never been that way before. So these are all red flags to notice as quickly as possible, even if we don't notice the behavior that caused it, see? Because if we're just focused on looking for that alone, then we may not see it, and that is what can cause us to blame ourselves for our condition. We're in the middle, when we're in the middle of this stuff. I'm talking about all this in hindsight from my life, but when you're in the middle of the battle, right in the middle, that's what can happen. You can blame yourself, like, I don't know how I got to be in this shape, but my God. And you can have friends and family, they may not tell you until afterward, but eventually you may hear things like, I was really worried about you, we didn't know what was going on, and you just weren't yourself anymore, and it's so good to see that you're doing well now, and things like this. So other people can see that you decline too. Another word is dehumanize. Dehumanize, to deprive someone of dignity. Okay? Yeah. When toxic people are coming at you with all of their approaches and tactics, their goal is to break you down, to be in control of you. To deprive you of dignity is at the heart of it, in my opinion. So to define dignity, it means the quality or state of being worthy, honored, or esteemed. Yes. And I don't this is just my 2 cents. I don't care how secure of a person you are, if you are subjected to these kinds of attacks just repeatedly in your home base environment, or your work environment that you spend so many hours in, or any situation or relationship that you spend a lot of time in, if you're just subjected over and over and over, it's going to affect you, and it's going to affect your dignity, your feeling of being just worthy. And we forget, who to listen to. This is, I'm going to bring my beliefs in. Again, feel free to apply your own lens. But, God tells us that actually not one of us is worthy, if you look at it through the Christian lens, right? Because we live in a fallen world. Not one of us is perfect. I could give you all kind of verses, but we are made worthy through repenting and accepting the gift of Christ. And so that's one lens that you can apply if you share those beliefs with me. But the point is this person, this toxic person, is going to just make you feel like a totally unworthy, not even a human being. It's very inhumane how they treat us, right? So dignity, again, the definition is the quality or state of being worthy, honored, or esteemed. So they're going to pretend to not understand you a lot of times. They'll just walk away mid-sentence a lot of times. They'll laugh at something you're trying to share that's very important or special or private, that you trusted them, and it puts you in a vulnerable state to share. A lot of times they can treat you this way just by laughing at it, or demeaning it, coming back with a demeaning comment, or a cruel comment, or a cruel look, or a haughty arrogance. So they totally demolish your dignity. You see what I'm saying? And let me just say, you are worthy as a human being. Okay, so please don't misunderstand what I was saying and bringing in some spirituality there, because that's a whole nother deep topic that we could dive into. So again, apply your own lens, but hopefully you're getting at the heart of my message and what I'm intending to share with you, right? In other words, a toxic person is going to want to put themselves above you, and they're going to approach you from this level of condescension, all the time. And sometimes it's in such a manner that you can't put your finger on it. And so you blame yourself, and you're thinking, I used to have good self-esteem, again, dignity, the state of feeling esteemed, but now I don't, and I don't know what happened, and you're blaming yourself, and you can't figure it out, and you're in this fog. They call it this fog that you find yourself in the midst of narcissistic abuse. So I hope these terms offer you some clarity, especially as part of your armor that you put on, or you put into the forefront of your mental awareness every day, so that they're readily available to catch how you feel when you are being attacked, because you may not catch the tactic immediately, but again, it will be logged down low somewhere in our conscious awareness, and we'll be able to pull it back up later at the right time with wisdom, with knowledge, to be able to process it and let it register. Okay, so demoralizing, degrading, degeneration, dehumanizing. So I looked into the prefix of de, and it's really interesting, because the meaning is off, or from, or down, away, removal, or reversal. So it's like taking away from. And I'm reminded of, there's a Bible verse, I'll have to look it up, but it's something like, don't speak anything with the intention to tear down, only to build up, because words do affect us. And so to pretend like they don't, it's that whole sticks and stones saying, and words will never hurt me. Not true. And the Bible, backs that up. So we're meant to only, I think, speak and focus on the things that are meant to build ourselves and others up, not to tear down. So that prefix of de, is the opposite of that. It is it's like it has the power of death and degeneration and deterioration behind it, which, if you look at that through the lens of the word demon, D-E-M-O-N, I'm going to put the spiritual spin, the spiritual lens on this topic for a minute. Look in researching M-O-N, it means warn, like to warn somebody, okay, advise, to offer caution, right? So putting that together, DE is away, or removal, or taking away from, or off, warning. And I thought, wow, for me, this was just huge, because it essentially means without warning, a demon. And that's exactly, go back to the Garden of Eden and the origin of sin there. They were deceived. So deception is at the heart of these dark intentions that come through in these toxic people. Deception is at the heart. They'll make you think that they're your friend when they're not. They'll make you think that they love you and that they respect you when they don't. So again, it's without warning, demon, without warning. even the Bible describing Satan as, an angel of light. And so it's all about deception, the wolf in sheep's clothing. And there we have wolf and through a bad lens, right? So, yes. So really interesting. And then, if you look at the opposite of D, which D is to take from, to tear down, whatever, take away. The opposite would be R-E, which is again. And then looking at the word religion, there's a couple of different ways to look at this, okay? Because one is that the origin is religare or religare, which means to bind, where it's whole, okay? It's not a way or separate, but it's whole. And then the other way to look at this is to consider means again, and then legion or legion, L-I-G-I-O-N, is close to legion, L-E-G-I-O-N, which means a gathered body of soldiers. Wow, legion, a gathered body of soldiers. Yes. And so if you, again, apply the Christian lens, we're all, considered the body of Christ. And so in that sense, I can totally understand how people describe going through narcissistic abuse as a spiritual battle. And, it's to reconnect, religion means to get back in line as a soldier, right? To get back in the ranks. I've heard it described. So yes, I hope that this just gives you some validation and some encouragement. It really did for me. And then I want to take it a little bit further. So 2 Peter chapter 1 verses 5 through 7 says, make every effort to add to your faith goodness, and to goodness knowledge, and to knowledge self-control, and to self-control perseverance, and to perseverance godliness, and to godliness mutual affection, and to mutual affection love. And it ends with love, because love is the ultimate, right? Yes. So to me, if you're continually exposing yourself and subjecting yourself out of obligation or whatever the reason it is to a degrading, degenerative environment or relationship, you're not adding to your faith these things. You're not able to add goodness to your faith because you're subjecting yourself to the opposite on the regular. You know what I mean? So you might as well take away self-blame, because nobody can flourish in that kind of environment. Nobody can bloom in that kind of environment. So to bring in the garden analogy, there's so many different lenses we can look at this through. And it's also interesting because when I was reading this in the Bible, it reminded me that these apostles would open up a lot of these chapters with like a blessing to the reader, such as grace and peace be yours in abundance. And how beautiful is that? So I feel like that's a great example of the kind of energy we want to allow to be within our space. Someone who wishes those things for us. That's what we want. Someone who wishes grace and peace for us, for our spirit, for our mind and our body, for all parts of us. Not someone who wishes, anything that would tear us down. So again, just really strengthening that armor. That's what we're doing today. So yes, toxic people with bad intentions are a stumbling block to our perseverance. Okay, they exploit our love. I'm picking those pieces out from that verse I read to you, those verses I read to you. They're a stumbling block to our perseverance. They exploit our love. They mock and they scoff at our godliness. Like if you pray, I've actually witnessed, if you pray, sometimes these people will just immediately just lock their jaw and seem irritated and walk off. It's like it's rattling their demons, literally. And they challenge your self-control. They challenge that, and they get their kicks when you slip up and you can't hold in the frustration, you know, that you so rightfully feel, and it just spills out in words that are meant to tear down, you know, because you know, when you're a good person, you know that words that come out harsh like that are meant to tear down, and you don't ever want to let that out, even if you're feeling it in the moment. But these people push you and push you and push you with that intention, so that you will have trouble with your self-control, and it'll come out, and then you'll blame yourself instead of them, when they were really the instigator. So I'm going to end with this right here. This was really interesting. So we had talked about breaking down the word demon, and mon, M-O-N, meaning warn, and how demon meant without warning. This was just my lens through my research, and I shared that with you. But another way to look at that last part of that word demon, the M-O-N, is not just warn or advise, but to remind. To remind. So I thought that was really interesting, because that's what a lot of us wind up realizing in the end is, we may have believed we were, you know, believers with our spiritual practice, right? And we may have been, but going through this kind of stuff just takes you to another level, because you realize that the darkness that operates in this world is real. And you can apply, you know, a logical lens if you're not a spirit and you don't have a spiritual practice, right? I totally respect all of my viewers and your choice to apply your own lens, you know, whatever works for you. But this is just my lens. So, but for me, it just brought me to a whole nother level of being up close and personal with what I like to call the spiritual battle. So M-O-N, to remind you. Sometimes, you know, you might find yourself going a long time without praying because everything's going fine, and then you realize that, okay, I've only been praying when I need something from God or when something's going wrong in my life. And then you can remind yourself to get back in the practice of praising Him and living through a state of gratitude to your higher power on the regular. So when you are face to face, when you just come face to face with some serious darkness in your life firsthand, and you experience these kind of impacts on your body, mind, and soul, it is a great reminder of these other forces that are at work in our lives. And the first reminder that we are faced with sometimes is the dark side, but it also reminds us of the other side. So that's the silver lining in all this. If you are a spiritual person, that it can remind you of God, and it can actually help. It's where, you know, there's the verse that I love. He uses all things for the good of those who love Him. What it can ultimately do, as long as we remove ourselves out of a situation that's dangerous, right? We always need to get ourselves to a place of safety first and foremost. We have to be smart about how we do that too sometimes, right? But ultimately, it's going to remind us of God, and God is good. So I hope this has been inspiring and encouraging for you. I really enjoyed putting this together for you, and I hope that I'm still able to keep my momentum with finding inspiration. I just kind of feel like if there's a message that's meant to flow through me and to be published, it will come to me, and I just try to take what resonates and do the research I need to do and run with it and have it ready for you all. So thank you so much again. I really enjoyed this today with you, and I hope that you have a beautiful day, and I will see you again very soon.